Hey everyone, I'm sitting here at my kitchen table and I don't have a handful of books or notes or anything in front of me, so maybe I won't talk too long. It's past mine and Gypsy's supper time anyway. But I've just had something come up in the last day or so and was asked a question really kind of directly today what I thought about something. Along with finishing up a book last night and the impression it left on me, the effect it had on me. And so I wanted to kind of address it, and I don't know if I can really do that well or not, but I'm going to try. And I guess the subject would be maybe humility and what really is true humility. One of the best books I've ever read about it is called Humility by a man named Andrew Murray, who lived back in the late 1800s. It's a really short little book. If you want to read it, I think you can get it on Amazon for like 99 cents. And it really gives you a very different perspective on what humility is and what we consider humility a lot of times is not. It's basically we're I guess you call it self degradation, where we're actually putting ourselves down to kind of fish for more compliments, or we think that there's something wrong with accepting a compliment for something, or for sharing something that we've done. Now, I do believe that it is wrong if you are doing things to get attention or to get something out of it. Although that's probably not well spoken either, because basically we're all doing stuff to get something out of it. We go to work every day to get paid. I'm not doing it for free, sorry. Everything we do has some kind of motivation behind it, even if it's just because it makes you feel good. I used to tell people, they would talk about my volunteering at the animal shelter, and oh, that's just so wonderful, Susan, you do so good, and I just couldn't do that, and I would say, I'm really not that great. I get a lot out of it, you know. So, but your motive shouldn't be to be puffed up, to bring attention to yourself. That's when it becomes wrong. But it's not wrong to share something that you're excited about, that happened, that God gave you an opportunity to be a part of blessing someone, to be a part of blessing other people. When we do our serve days, all of us, we post a gazillion pictures. And it's not because we're trying to puff ourselves up, it's because we had fun. And we do want to share that, hey, Christians aren't all bad. We do some good stuff sometimes, okay? We screw up a lot too, but we do some good stuff. We try. So I am I am a people pleaser. I'm an approval addict. I mean, big time. I am textbook. And so I love my attaboys. I love my pats on the back. And so it is really hard for me. I do really have to watch myself, because it's real easy for me to do something not necessarily for that reason, but then afterwards to want to get approval or patted on the back for it or whatever, instead of just allowing God to bless me. We joke sometimes, if you tell somebody you've done something, well, there goes your crown in heaven. There goes that crown. You blew it now. You've already told it. And it does say in the scriptures that when you pray and when you give, you shouldn't go about bragging about those things. And that's true. Again, you don't go about bragging about it, but it is okay to be excited about something. If your church is doing something great in the community, awesome, share that. other people may be looking for that type of thing. Um, it is wrong for us to continually put ourselves down and never give ourselves credit for anything. Um, when God is working through us, and that's kind of the flip side of me too. I want approval, and I guess I want that because I'm so hard on myself, and I never think I've done enough. I have this complex of never quite good enough. Doesn't matter what I do, how much I do, it's never quite enough. And that's something I really struggle with. And I'm struggling with it these days. And I'm struggling with this whole COVID-19. And I have no problem being alone. Y'all know, those that know me know, I really don't. I've been alone a long time. But it's getting to, I've had about enough alone time now. And of course, until it warms up consistently, I'm going to stay right here where it's warm. But but anyway, this book that I just finished last night, it was about another military guy. It was a young Marine named Kyle Carpenter, and the book was called "You Are Worth It." And he received the Medal of Honor for falling purposely, throwing himself on a grenade to try to protect his buddy who was up on this rooftop with him on watch over in Afghanistan. And so the book is, I highly, highly, highly recommend it, y'all. There are a lot of these books that I read, and they inspire me in a way, but then they also make me feel bad because then it's like, well, I'm not doing enough, or I don't they went through that and they handled it so well, and I'm just falling apart over here over little stuff. And but this particular book was different. And last night, as I was finishing it on Audible, and I was listening to it, and he was he was thanking people who had had a part in his recovery from the time the grenade went off to being medevaced out, flown to Germany, flown to the U.S., and this years long process. This guy should not be alive. I mean, he should not. He took the full blast of a grenade to his chest. And of course, he had the body armor and all on. But half of his face was gone, his bottom jaw. It's just amazing. But it's not, his story is not about combat as much. That's really he tells about his growing up years and joining the Marines and all of that. He goes into all that some. But most of the book is about his journey to recovery afterwards and the struggles that he had. And he says, not every day he said, I know I've made it sound like I was just optimistic all the time and positive, and he said that's not true. I had those days that were really hard, and I struggled with not becoming addicted to painkillers and the nightmares and all those things. And but again, he was ending it with thanking all these people, and he talked about going back to Germany, to the hospital, the big medical facility over there, that Landstuhl or something. I know I probably said that wrong, but he got to go back over there with a group of men and women who had come through there at some point on their way back to the U.S. after being injured, and being able to thank the doctors and the nurses and the people there who helped them. And they said there was a cleaning lady there who recognized one of the servicemen that was with him, and she just started crying, and she went up and hugged him, and he was like, what, and she said that she remembered him, and she didn't she didn't think he was going to make it, and she never got to hear. They don't get to hear how the stories end. When these people leave them, they're on to the next one, and they don't get to hear how most of the stories end. This particular guy, I'm sure they all heard that he'd received the Medal of Honor and all, but most of these people, they don't hear the stories. And so he said, this lady who just came in and swept our floors and mopped our floors and cleaned every day, but she cared so much that when she saw this man again, she just broke down. And he said, we forget that every little part that we play is important. And it just really struck me last night when I said that I'm so hard on myself about, a memory had popped up on my phone this weekend from somebody thanking me for talking to them and giving them a book. And it was like 3 years ago, and I don't even remember what I gave them, what we talked about. But she said, it made more of a difference than you can imagine. And my first thought when I saw that memory earlier in the weekend was like, well, that's nice, but I can't rest on that. That's the past. And but after I read that book, I thought about that, and I thought about some other things that people have tried to thank me for or compliment me for, and I just downplay it because I don't want to be prideful. Well, it's not being prideful to accept a compliment or to say you're welcome. And it's wrong to continually do like I do and just beat yourself down all the time. So I don't know if this makes any sense. I'll try to bring it all together here. Basically, what this person asked me today is it wrong to share or to talk about when you give, when your church does things, or when you do things? Is it wrong to tell people about that? Well, I think it's an individual thing. If it's your heart, and nobody can say but you what your motive is, and so you have to take every situation individually and check your heart. If the reason you're doing it is to get applause, then yeah, that's probably a problem. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but after you do it, maybe remind yourself, okay, I need to be quiet about this. I need to teach myself that, God is going to reward me. I don't have to get that pat on the back here. God will reward me. And retrain your thinking. But if somebody comes out and thanks you on Facebook or whatever for something you've done, it's okay to say, you're welcome. It was my pleasure. I was glad to do it or whatever. So, again, I hope that makes some sense. It's a really delicate balance between doing things for the wrong reasons and for prideful reasons, and doing and sharing things because you're just genuinely excited about them. There's just kind of a fine line there. But the bottom line is just the motive of your heart, and that our purpose in all of it should be pointing to Jesus. And so if what we do, if what we say, if what we post, whatever, if it points to Jesus, then it's a good thing. If it doesn't, step back for a minute and just check your heart. And nobody can judge your heart but you. And so whatever anybody else thinks, it doesn't matter. It's between you and God. If you know that your heart is pure and that you've done this thing for the right reasons and you've shared for the right reasons, and I hope that makes sense. So I appreciate y'all listening. Me and Toby. Toby died 2.5 years ago, and I have Gypsy now. I had her then too. But anyway, sorry, me and Gypsy are going to go have supper now. She was outside. She didn't hear me, thankfully. So anyway, I'm a little goofy, sorry. But I love you guys. Have a good night.